So what would be like a good initial investment? In like how many, in the thousands?
Yeah. So when we talk about investment, again, it's, you hear numbers all over the place and people automatically assume that you're paying like $5,000 up front, but it's not. But if you need that initial investment, I would say at least $2,000 because you need to pay for tools and inventory just to get started, right? And everything else as well, hopefully you have a job, you get more money but you need at least $2,000 to $3,000. But if you were to source a more expensive product, which I don't suggest you if this was your first product, because there's a lot more risk. You're putting in more money. But if you source like an average product that's about $3 or $4 on Alibaba, $2,000 or $3,000 is enough. Yeah.
Hi, I want to ask about like the barrier of entry. Like, do you think that like now if it's getting started, is it reasonable to be able to enter the difficulty, or 2 years later, is it going to be that much harder to get started 5 years later?
You know what? It really depends because for myself, a year ago, I would say, wow, it's so hard. But now when I'm more experienced, I actually think it's a lot easier now. I think one thing a lot of new sellers kind of feel uneasy about is like, wow, I keep hearing things like Amazon saturated, it's too hard, or we're running out of products. But it's not true, because if that were the case, then I don't how are other people making money, right? Like, how is Amazon? How are they, generating more and more revenue every single year? It's just, so yeah.
Hi. I was just curious about how you think, let's say, selling food, beverages, or supplements compares to other products or other product categories.
So I know a very successful seller in the supplements category. Actually, two of them. And that could be like more of like a second or third product. But again, with your first product, you want to sell like really simple items only because it will cause you less problems. And you won't need like FDA approval. You won't need like certification. You basically pick, source, done, right? And then when you have your whole run on Amazon and you had the feeling of like PPC, you know how to do your product listing, you know how to rank, you know how to launch. All right, let's figure out the certification and like everything else. Yeah.
So what's your criteria for like your new product, something new that's what's must have in that product?
Okay, so I think one big issue that I keep like seeing a lot with new sellers is that they don't know how to differentiate their product. And when we talk about like differentiation, they automatically assume like maybe it's like a different color or something. But if you are new and you want to sell a product that's already on Amazon, I would think like not really criteria, but like a piece of advice is you really have to know what the market wants. And that's basically reading other customers' comments in your competitors' product listings to see what does the customer want. Because there's so many customers saying, oh, I wish it was like this, or I wish it had that, or this isn't working out for me. You really have to take the time to kind of read that and then add value to your own product and make sure you can source a product that fixes that problem. Like, I think a lot of people actually miss out on that, or they're just not doing enough thorough research in that area to know if they kind of believe in their product. Yeah.
How important is it to create a brand?
Very important. I'm glad you asked this question. So people ask me sometimes, I found a really good product, but it's kind of like one of those products where you can't really build a brand around it. I don't suggest it only because if you can build a brand around your product. So for example, if I'm selling forks, right? Maybe I want to like sell spoons or knives next or whatever. If it's something that you can kind of create next time around that is kind of similar, it's so much easier to sell because you're already so familiar with your niche and your keywords that you can actually recycle a lot of the keywords because you already know you already know how to launch to the first page for this keyword. You can source another product that can reuse those keywords. So that makes like your journey a lot more easier. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
So stay within your category is usually better to get started.
Yeah, because you already know, like, you know your competitors, you know the keywords, you know, like, you know what's working. So
Yeah.
all you got to do is kind of create another product that's similar, but even better. And you're just kind of redoing everything. That's like the easiest way, not easy, like quicker way to success.
So my question is about how do you find a supplier? So say I wanted to sell like a really fancy shower curtain, right? And I go and I find these shower curtains on Amazon. I'm like, these shower curtains are lame. I have a really great idea for a shower curtain I want to sell. How do I find someone who can provide me with like a menu of shower curtains I can browse to sell, or give me an option to customize my own shower curtain? Like, how do you find a supplier?
Yeah, so with the suppliers, I think one big thing that a lot of sellers miss is that what you see, for example, with Alibaba, whenever you type in a keyword, you see a bunch of products that come up, right? But whatever they show on their store and their storefront, they actually have a lot more that they don't put online. Like, I've gone through so many suppliers where I ask them for specifications, like, I need it like this, I need this, I need that. And they tell me, we can get it for you. And I always ask them, well, why wasn't it on your website? And they said, because you're the only one requesting it. But if you want it, we can make it for you from scratch. But if it depends on what you're trying to change, because if you are kind of inventing a whole new product, it's a little risky, because if that product becomes, if it's selling really well, you may need a patent, which is like a whole new, like, different world, and it costs money to get patents and all these other, things that are involved. But if you're just kind of creating your own design to it, for example, one of my products, I created the design and everything, like, it belongs to me, the drawings belong to me, everything belongs to me. I didn't get a patent, but I requested it and they were able to make it. So, but it was not on their website. I had to like verbally ask for it. So I would ask the supplier, because not everything is listed online. Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, like, for us wanting to jump into that sort of life and everything.
Yeah.
Before, you became, like, you're famous and all the YouTube stuff, like, as a seller, what is your day-to-day life like? And what are some of the challenges you see and tasks you have to do?
Oh man. So I remember when I just started selling on Amazon, and I was not a YouTuber. I did not have my Facebook group. I literally knew nobody. I had a lot more time to kind of like research and everything, and just really, like, especially when you're new, you have to really take the time to get used to everything. I think the learning process took like 6 months. Like, I think it took like 6 months for me to say, okay, now I can source any product I want, because I'm so used to the process. I think it took like 6 to 8 months, but now that I have the channel and I have my students and I have my Facebook group and everything, I really have to see which area I want to like kind of put my time towards. So I'm starting to outsource a few things, but it is longer hours for me though. Right now it's longer hours, but it kind of is what it is. I am currently looking for an additional business partner to help me with a few things. With the course, I have a business partner right now, and for my current products, I have 5 products and 3 Amazon Seller Central accounts, and I have one new business partner that kind of is helping me kind of manage that. So you meet people along the way that can help you for sure.
Hi. If you've identified a brand or a category that you're selling, let's say it's private label or wholesale, and you want to stand out, if you're going to bundle those items together, let's say I did this on eBay years ago, it worked really, really well. So to kind of set yourself apart, you bundle like-kinded items. Do you have to take additional photos for that, or can you use the photos that your wholesaler or private label company supplies to you when you're creating and uploading a new ASIN number?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it doesn't matter how pretty the supplier's photos look, it doesn't matter. You should always be taking your own photos, because I'm very picky with photos, because now that I've been selling for 2 years, I kind of know what works and doesn't. And if you're not taking your own photos, I just feel like it's not very personable. And there's so many things you can do with photos that really make you stand out, especially if you're doing e-commerce. Everything is about perceived value, right? Like, you really want the value to show in your images. how this customer makes a decision whether or not they should buy. So I always have the mindset where it's like there's always room to improve. Even if the image that you're getting from your supplier looks really good, you can improve it. You definitely could put your own kind of like twist to it to improve it even more and more, so people will actually add to cart and check out.
How did you stay motivated at the beginning when you?
Well, one very big, one of the biggest ways how I stay motivated was I just kept thinking about my life, and I kept thinking, I gave myself a choice. It was pretty much I keep going and going with Amazon until it works, or I go back to my crappy 9-to-5 job, which was even more miserable. Like for me, it was like, I didn't care how much it cost. I didn't care what Roblox. I didn't care how many times like people laughed at me, or, because when I first started, my parents were a little worried because I came from like a corporate job, like steady income, everything. And they were kind of like, thinking like, worried for me or whatnot. And a lot of my friends were kind of looking at me funny. But you just have to really ask yourself, like, what do you really want? Like, are you willing to like, work hard at this? Like, how badly do you want it, right? So I always compare this life to my last life, and I'm like, nope, never going back. So yeah, I always think back about like how I felt, and I was like, no, I'm gonna keep going. So
I just got a question.
Yeah.
Let's say I had a product that I already designed it myself, but I don't want to go through the partnering and all that stuff. Do you got the connection? How that product can be built? It's a small item.
Yeah.
How to keep marriage together with no argue.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, because I could like pretty much guarantee you, if your product ends up selling on Amazon, they're gonna find you. They're gonna, it's. I mean, who wouldn't, right? I mean, we all want to make money. They will find a way to copy. They would buy your product and find someone. They will know someone who knows someone, but that's just life. Like, everyone will try to copy you. So if you are inventing a product, you have to get a patent. You just have to get a patent. So to make your life easier, though, maybe not invent one first. Maybe, again, start the simple way, easy, simple product, get the feel of it, ask yourself, is this what I want to do for the next 10 years? Yes? Okay, let's do the patent.
Do you need a sourcing agent? And if so, how do you find one?
Oh, yeah. So me personally, I don't believe in sourcing agents. I've also talked to other bigger sellers that tried to find a sourcing agent, and they couldn't really find a good one. For myself, though, I mean, now that I've been doing it, it's kind of easy for me to feel out like which supplier is good, which supplier is bad. There's also like a long list of things, but you don't need a sourcing agent. And in fact, if you find a really good supplier and you stay within the same niche, this is another reason to stay within the same niche. Your supplier could probably find you a lot more for your second, third, fourth product. So yeah, after you find your first supplier, it gets easier. Yeah, but you don't need one.
Is there a difference in a supplier versus manufacturer? Because I know there are people who really look for a manufacturer and they don't want a supplier. What are your
I
thoughts?
think you mean a manufacturer or a trading company. So I have a friend, my business partner just went to China for their, what was it called? Yeah, the Canton Fair, and he got a lot of insight, and majority of people on Alibaba are actually trading companies, and that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And I don't know who started the rumor, but for myself, all of my suppliers are trading companies. The reason why I chose them is because they have connections to manufacturers, and they've already built that relationship where they can find you anything you want. So if you want to source your second, third product, they will find that for you because they already know the manufacturer. And sometimes they even have better prices because, again, they've already established that manufacturer. But from what I've heard and what I gathered, there's more trading companies than manufacturers. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that at all. So
talk to me after. I'll help you with that.
Some of them do. I actually had my supplier called me one time and she was speaking a bit of English. So they do. Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of importance on like the launch and, you know, getting your pay-per-clicks in. And my question is, how long does it take before you know if your product is a failure? Like, is there such a thing as like a slow launch and then it picks up after 6 months when you have reviews? Or is it like if it hasn't made it by 6 months, it's dead, you should move on to a new product?
Well,
like, what's the life cycle or the time frame?
Yeah, so I mean, usually after, well, if you know how to do your product launch, remember your strategy. You should already have a strategy and a game plan before you even pay your supplier. This is very important. So, you know, make sure you do the research. But usually after your product launch, see how the steady sales are, right? But it doesn't mean that you failed, because a lot of the times, you know, I get messages from people and they're like, I'm only making 2 sales a day. So we try to look through their I also work with people in looking at their Seller Central accounts. Like, we do screen share and I look at, why are you only getting 2 sales? Is it because lack of visibility? Is it because you haven't done a hard enough launch? Is it because you're targeting the wrong keywords? Is it because your price is too high? There's so many things to consider. So it's kind of hard to know exactly when is it like a huge flop. But usually if you have someone coaching you or training you, they can figure that out for you. So it really depends. But if you've done everything within your power to launch it and you believe that you've done everything right and you're still not getting sales, which I have seen, I've seen this, your product is probably the wrong product. Yeah, so that's why everything kind of has to be done in order and, you know, one step at a time, and it has to be done right, because if something is not working, it's going to affect everything later on. So
that's a good question. You want to follow up?
Yeah. Go ahead. So like, say everything's perfect.
Right.
It's just stellar. How many months would it take for you to recognize that?
Oh.
Like, is it like within 24 hours? You're like,
not 24
we have a great
hours.
launch.
Yeah. Well, if you've done like your PPC,
like just time frame wise.
Yeah, like if you've done your launch really well and you know your keyword, like, you know, as you said, like the perfect launch, I would say after like 2 to 4 weeks, if your sales are still getting 1 or 2 sales a day, and you've had someone like experienced look at what the problem is, you try to like fix that problem and you're still getting 1 or 2 sales, you know right away, that your gut feeling's going to tell you. And I get a lot of those too. So yeah, but there's no reason why you should be if everything is done correctly.
Can you talk a little bit about like the process of how you went scaling your business, like going from making, you know, starting out to making some money to making a lot of money to making like a boatload of money, you know?
Yeah. So right now I'm a 6-figure seller and I've been selling for 2 years. When I first started, obviously I shared with you guys, I lost a lot of money. But after I figured it only like, I'm not sure if you guys heard it, but I think like there's like, it only takes one product. So if you, and I know this because I know other very big sellers, it only takes one product. If you have one product that just takes off, you can make a really like big income from that. And after you know how to do it and you know the strategies, everything else is actually quite easy. Like, because you know what's working, you know what doesn't work, you know your mistakes, you know not to make them. Well, given that you know how to recognize it, right? It's actually pretty easy to scale, but it does cost a lot more, because if you want to scale, if you're very focused on scaling, which was me my first year, I was like, let's just scale it so I can like sit on money, right? You have to reinvest every single penny, so you don't get paid at all. I didn't pay myself the first year much at all, like barely anything, because everything I made, I launched more products. But after a while, I was like, I think I'm okay with 5 products. I'm going to stop, right? I was, you know, I have other things happening. So that's kind of like where I'm at. Yeah.
Can I ask about your product life cycle? Like, do you just, if you launch one product and it goes well, do you just keep it on forever and ever and ever, or do you ever pivot?
Yeah, so actually it's a really good question. So with people that I'm mentoring right now, I have one student, she's like making $25,000 a month on repeat. And this took her like 4 months. But what she's doing right now is she's enjoying her life, obviously. Like she has a lot of free time now, and the money's passive. So she's been asking me, should I launch a third product? Because if she does, that's work. That's a lot of upfront capital because she's reinvesting. So it's really like your personal choice. Like, are you happy with $25,000 a month? Do you want $100,000 a month? I mean, do you have other sources of income where you can lean back on that you can start reinvesting that $25,000 a month? So it depends on your lifestyle, what you want in life and everything. Yeah. But some people are happy with $25,000 a month. So it's your lifestyle and what you want.
All right, hold on. So Tamara, here's a follow-up question to that. So you got a product that is doing well, and depending on the product, what's your recommendation on maybe selling it in packs of 2s, 4s? I've heard that's a good strategy.
Yeah, actually, for one of my products, my winning product, I was selling 1. And then I started getting reviews. I actually got a few 1-stars, and they're like, I wish it came in 2s or 3s. So after I got like 3 1-star reviews with people saying that, I was like, that's it. I got rid of the 1-pack, and I did the 3-pack. All the 5 stars started coming in. So I just never did the 1 again. So it's trial and error too, but it was good. They were actually really good 1-star reviews. Yeah.
How do you look for your winning product, and what are the criteria that you're looking for? And are those evergreen products that you're looking at? So
yeah. So I mean, for the criteria part of it, it is kind of long to explain. That's you can message me about that. Yeah, but it is kind of like I don't give out too much about it because I have students actually paid for that portion, so I didn't want to give out too much information. But it's kind of rare when people have their first product as a winning product. It's pretty rare only because your first product, you're learning, you're testing, you're making your mistakes. So I don't think I've met anyone that had their first product as a winning product. But the second time around, I've seen lots. For myself, it was my second. For a lot of people I know, it was their second product. It just happened. So it does take it's a learning process, right? But yeah. I think there's one last thing I wanted to add. If you guys so I know we talked about the first product and the winning product. So just so you know, when you find your winning product, a lot of people kind of think, like automatically they think, oh, I need to source a third or fourth because that would mean more money. It's actually not the case. If you find your winning product, you can keep scaling on that current product. So scaling, I mean, run more ads, improve the images, more competitive price, have coupons, drive external traffic. You can keep working on that winning product until it like multiplies in revenue. So a lot of people, they reinvest their money. The problem with reinvesting your money is that you're never going to get paid, right? But if you keep scaling the current winning product, you're just going to get more and more, like it's just easier because you're scaling the same product. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. When it comes to finding suppliers of a product, instead of just using Alibaba, would you recommend also using Alibaba Express to kind of test out smaller quantities?
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, my second product, which was my winning product, I actually found it on Aliexpress first. Yeah, I guess you could call it luck. I kind of just ordered it because it looked cute, and then when it arrived at my house, I was like, oh yeah, I think this is it. And then I went on Alibaba. But I don't teach that strategy only because if you are following all the right steps, it's pretty much safe to say that you can order at least 500 or 1,000 units. It's, if you know what you're doing. But no, you can totally test with AliExpress. But the problem there is there's no customization. So you're going to have to actually had 300 units shipped to my apartment, and then I labeled it all myself with my logo and everything to test it, and then it became my winning product. And then I went to Alibaba and told them to customize it the way I want. So.
And now I have a question about your class.
Oh yeah.
So how does that work? Like, how long is it? Is it like a structured 12 course series, or is it like an ongoing mentorship? Maybe you can share your thoughts on
So
that.
I have 2 training programs. One is for it's targeted towards more beginners such as yourself, and the other one's it's all PPC. So with my main training program, it's about 9 to 10 hours, and it teaches you everything that how to source, how to find your winning product, all the way down to how to launch, how to find a strategy, how to sustain sales, and if for whatever reason, if something doesn't work out, I also teach you how to break even. So a lot of people, they think, wow, I'm investing $3,000-$4,000. It's gone if it doesn't work out. That's not true. There are ways how you can break even. That's something I teach. So if you put in $3,000 and it doesn't sell, I teach you how to get rid of it. Now, it's not a guarantee though, right? Because I can't guarantee people will buy your product that's losing, but it does teach you another way to get rid of your product in case anything happens. I have a few students in here actually. So basically, I have a private coaching group for my students. I do live weekly training for them once a week just to kind of answer questions like how we're doing here as a group, but it's all online. And you could email me. I respond every day.
And Tamara, how do we get a hold of you?
Slide into my DMs. You could find me on Facebook, Tamara T, YouTube channel, or Amazon FB Winners Facebook group. Yeah.
As far as launching goes, your first initial launch, other than doing running your PPC and then also having a review app set up, what should you be expecting to do so that you have that first success with your initial launch?
You have to know your numbers. So a lot of us, and not like I'm amazing at math or anything, but there are tools that literally lay out, okay, how much does it cost per product? How much does it cost to ship? How much is your Amazon FBA fee? How much commission are they taking? You have to know your numbers, because you can have the most amazing, perfect launch, but if you're not making any profits, what's the point of everything, right? So it's just getting the right tools, knowing your numbers, and finding out that profit margin. And when you're launching your product, you're spending money, right? That's, let's face it, you're spending money, but we have to think long term, because if you launch your product and you're putting in that investment up front and, you're doing it right, the reward is just so rewarding. Everything, all your money comes back. It's going to triple, it's going to quadruple. It's just going to keep growing. So it's, just know your math.
So if you know your math. So your initial launch, you run your PPC campaign, and you would suggest putting it on automatic so that you could figure out what exactly, which keywords that you should be spending money on. Yeah. So how long would you suggest running an automatic campaign before you move into doing an exact or broad or?
Yeah. So there's 2 types of campaigns, automatic and manual. Now, there's a lot of strategies that I use. So the most common one that people talk about is run automatic campaign for weeks. The most important thing is just make sure you have a full day's budget, because if you don't have a full day's budget, you're missing out on data. You're missing out on sales, right? You're missing out on people seeing your product listing being advertised. Typically it's a few weeks to run automatic, and for all those keywords that are converting, you would move into manual and further explore using broader phrase, or if you want to use for ranking up to page 1, use an exact manual PPC campaign. But it's very important that you're spending time every day optimizing, because there's a lot of keywords that kind of pop up and people that are not making you money, right? Like the water bottle example, everybody's searching water bottle, but someone might be searching blue water bottle, but you're selling a green water bottle. You gotta make sure you're optimizing, getting rid of the keywords that are sucking up all your money, spending your money, right? And don't leave it on autopilot. I have a lot of people calling me for PPC help, and the most common mistake that they are making is they're not optimizing. So it's 10-15 minutes every day, but you want to get rid of keywords that are spending your money and not making you sales. And eventually all those keywords that are converting, that's where you're getting your sales and lowering that ACOS.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know it's I know that. Are you doing all of your launch are you launching all of your products yourself? Because I know there's a lot of launch services out there.
Yeah.
Do you trust other launch services? Because
definitely.
I know you talked about like some of them might be doing it illegally or like potentially like shutting down your
So throughout my Amazon journey for the last 2 years, in the beginning, it was all I used was a launch service, right? Because back then it was launch services were the thing, and that was how the algorithm was kind of like reacting to it. But so this year I haven't used any actually. It was all Facebook ads and ManyChat. But right now, if you were to go with the launch service, I try to tell people to not use it if you don't have to. But if you do, it's not wrong. You just have to make sure that you're not marking off your product higher than like 70% off, because that would be considered a super steep discount. And Amazon, if you're not balancing your organic sales with the steep discount, that's when Amazon, like, they recognize that, and that's when it's going to raise a lot of red flags. There's a launch service that's not too well known. It's called LaunchGator. Yeah, LaunchGator. Yeah, so I've used LaunchGator and I use ZonJump. Those are the only two. But if you can, try to do it organically, it's just going to work better in your favor. Plus, you want to learn the PPC anyway. So, yeah.
I was wondering, how do you build your list selling on Amazon? Do you get the email selling on FBA?
So how do you do the which?
How do you build your list of customers so you can make upsell when you contact them again? And do you get the email selling on FBA?
No. So with for Amazon, you don't get any customer emails, but that's why I use FeedbackWhiz. So what FeedbackWhiz does is that they have all the customer information. They pull it, well, not pull it, but they get it from Amazon, and it's just there. So I downloaded the customer's first, last name, and address, and I download it into an Excel spreadsheet. I have a YouTube video on this, step by step.
So FeedbackWhiz is not only for getting reviews, but you can also use it for making upsells?
I don't call it an upsell. It's just to get data. It tells, basically all the customer order information is in FeedbackWhiz. So if you want to extract information, you just download it, and then you upload audiences onto Facebook.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for more information, please visit feedbackwhiz.com.